Greetings, bienvenue, welcome in, sit on down. Because the live-action adaptation of How to Train Your Dragon recently hit theaters. Now, for those of you not in the know, all the way back in 2010, DreamWorks first introduced us to the world of Berk with the animated How to Train Your Dragon. But this was not the first instance of us meeting Berk, Hiccup, Toothless, and the rest. Now, you see, all the way back in 2003, UK audiences were introduced to the How to Train Your Dragon book series, and in 2004, it made its way across the pond to all of us over here in the US. Following its initial release, the book got many sequels releasing year after year, one in 2005, one in 2006, one in 2007, all the way up to 2015.
It's been 84 years.
But now, a mere 15 years after the release of the first animated movie, we finally have our live-action adaptation. And I have to say, I loved it! After some disappointing outcroppings from Disney with Lilo and Stitch and Snow White, it was so refreshing to see a studio really take on the main structure of their story. There were hardly any changes, and I know that gets some people infuriated, but I loved it! In the live-action adaptation, we are reintroduced to Hiccup through the role played by Mason Thames. We also get Nick Frost as Gobber and Nico Parker as Astrid, not to mention Gerard Butler as Stoic the Vast. Sorry, I was, thinking of something else. But with all of that, we have to wonder what comes next. Well, with me being me and you being you, we of course have to turn these iconic dragons into Pokemon. And luckily for us, the dragon typing already exists widespread throughout the Pokemon universe, so you don't really have to guess what at least one of the typings is gonna be for these guys, but the other is up for interpretation. We're gonna have some fun. Thanks for being here. Let's hop right into the video. Hi, I'm the Thesterninator, but my friends call me Stern. Welcome to the channel. While you're here, don't forget to drop down below, like, comment, subscribe, do all that fun stuff that makes me and YouTube happy, and oh, look at that, I'm on fire. Let's start off with the first dragon that Hiccup ends up befriending. Yes, I of course am talking about the Monstrous Nightmare.
You were expecting someone else?
No, in the books, Hiccup actually befriends a Monstrous Nightmare instead of the Night Fury, at least in the first interpretation. For this Pokemon, I really wanted to capture a lot of the design elements that make the Monstrous Nightmare so monstrous! I mean, it's in the name, right? Speaking of the name, I really like how past and future Paradox Pokemon use these two-word descriptors as the name, and luckily a lot of these dragons already have that setup. So I ended up keeping their full title as the name. I just don't want anyone to be surprised, don't want anyone to be scared, but I went into this design really wanting to capture the look of the Monstrous Nightmare. A lot of these designs are already very cartoony and kind of Pokemon-like, so there wasn't a lot of room to kind of maneuver my way into making something that felt like a Pokemon while taking away something from these iconic dragons. So for the Monstrous Nightmare, I kind of went with translating it almost directly, kind of solidifying some of the shapes and colors and designs. I really knew that I wanted to capture the Monstrous Nightmare's ability to engulf itself in flame, and wanted that to be a permanent part of the design. Now, it's not going to be any Typhlosion covering itself in fire, but it is going to have that ability, and I wanted that to be shown throughout the design. So I brought in these flame type of textures, this type of shaping that kind of encourages the idea of fire throughout the body. But one of the biggest things that I really love about the Monstrous Nightmare's design is those shifty eyes. I wanted something that really captured that shifty type of look, those squinty eyes that we see in the design of the dragon itself, and bring that in. I also love the horns on this dragon, how when being ridden, it almost feels like a motorcycle, so the horns had to become a key point. So far we know the things that we're keeping are the horns, the eyes, essentially the face, the color, the wingspan, the body. I mean, there's not a lot of room here for Pokemon, mostly just retranslating over the dragon, and I'm really happy with that. I feel like very often when I do these videos, this becomes the biggest struggle. What do you take away? What do you add to make the design feel like it makes sense for both the inspiration and Pokemon? But here, it felt like that line was so solid that I was able to write it directly into this design. So here is Monstrous Nightmare, the flame Pokemon. While stories are told of dragons breathing fire, this Pokemon is also able to set itself ablaze, burning everything around it to cinders. They make their nests in burnt forests and will constantly reheat their bed using this ability. While many have tried to befriend this monstrous Pokemon, it seems to prefer solitude, and any trainer bond it usually has is mostly out of respect or spite. Moving on, one of my absolute favorite dragon designs has to be the Bumblebee-inspired gruesome Gronckle. Oh my gosh, I love this character, and throughout the shows and various media for How to Train Your Dragon, we get to see this dragon really evolve in its story. We get to see various and numerous versions of this dragon, whether they be ones that breathe fire or ice. And we get to see Meatlug, Fish Legs' dragon, have eggs and babies and get to see the life cycle of dragons from exploding eggs all the way up to alpha species. So having the Gronckle in the video was a big plus for me and definitely something that I wanted to get right. I did end up going a little bit away from the dragon's actual design, not quite as one-to-one as the Monstrous Nightmare, but still something that I feel resembles the actual inspiration. It's a big rocky dragon. This was about the time that I realized each of these dragons has the ability to become a different type. So we have dragon, plus in this case it would be a rock or ground type, still kind of fishing around when designing. But I knew that I had the ability to do this for all of our different designs. So if this is gonna be a rock dragon, it should feel like a rock dragon. The Gronckle's big claim to fame is that it eats rocks, turning them into lava projectiles, these superheated stones that it shoots out of its mouth rather than fire. And I love that. I love how each dragon in this universe uses its fire breath in some different way, and this one just felt natural. Like going from fire to these projectile rocks really allows us to play with the Pokemon aesthetic here. I also wanted to keep those super tiny wings because of course each dragon is based on a different animal. So this one being based on a bumblebee, I wanted to keep those teeny tiny little wings.
According to all known laws of aviation, there is no way that a bee should be able to fly.
Keep that big mace-like tail, and keep that segmented, rocky, circular body. I kept a lot of the aspects I feel, but it still comes across looking very different from what the Gronckle looks like. And I like to think that that's a success. Keeping a lot of the same aspects, but not having it be a one-to-one, I think is a 10 out of 10, and something that solidifies this Pokemon as inspired by the Gronckle Dragon. But let me know what you think. I really love this design. I'm so curious what you guys think down in the comments, so please let me know. Not just for the gruesome Gronckle, but for all of the dragons here. And as I always ask in videos when I don't forget, let me know what abilities you think these Pokemon should have. Always love hearing from you guys, hearing what ideas that you have that allow us to say that we created these Pokemon together. Gruesome Gronckle, the Boulder Pokemon. Researchers have long studied this Pokemon and its relative weight-to-wing ratio. By all standards, it shouldn't be able to fly, as its body can often weigh up to 8,000 pounds, and even more if it has consumed a considerable amount of heavy stones. Regardless, it flies all the same. As I've already stated, most of the dragons within the How to Train Your Dragon universe are based on already existing animals, whether that be bugs, beetles, lizards, snakes, what have you. But none capture this better than the deadly Nadder. This dragon is insane and definitely one that gave me a little bit of a run for my money. So many colors, so many ideas all happening at once, all in that vaguely bird-shaped design. So I went in really playing with what we could do here and trying to get that rainbow aesthetic that we have to the dragon. It's something really big to the concept, is that it's rainbow colored, it's beautiful, it's bright, it's vibrant, really evoking that bird or parrot-like of aesthetic. So how do we do that while also knowing that it's going to be a dual type with one type already being dragon? I decided to go with a flying type because of, bird, but also it allowed me to really get my mind around inspiring it by these birds a little bit more heavily. I decided to go in keeping a lot of the facial structure, a lot of the body structure, and just really playing up those bird aesthetics throughout the tail and wings. It was a lot of fun, but definitely the most challenging of the set here, because where do you draw the line? Now we're not only bringing in the dragon and Pokemon aesthetic and mixing those together, but we're also bringing in the animal aesthetic with that bird type of inspiration. So we go from having 2 things meshed together to suddenly 3, and it became a hodgepodge, but I'm hoping that it comes out to something that you guys enjoy, because at the end, I really dig this design. I got to play with gradients a little bit more, which we don't see very often in Pokemon, but in recent generations, they've started to bring that in a little bit more, utilizing gradients rather than solid color and segmentation. One of my favorite generations is Gen 3, and segmentation of shape is a big thing in that generation, so I had to jump out of my comfort zone just a little bit to get to something that felt right and comfortable with this design, and I feel like making those weird judgment calls and moving myself to something that was a little bit more struggle-y allowed this design to really flourish in ways that it deserved to. Regardless of what I felt it should be, it came out to something that I think really captures the Pokemon vibe as well as the dragon vibe. Deadly Nadder, the Razor Wing Pokemon. This Pokemon is exceptionally vain, and despite having very limited vision, it loves to stand in front of a mirror. It is recommended to approach it from the front to avoid immediate confrontation, as it is capable of shooting barbed quills from its tail to stop would-be predators. What's preying on a Deadly Nadder? Your guess is as good as mine. Another really fun dragon that I love throughout the series is the hideous Zippleback, the 2-headed dragon. I mean, you knew it was coming, you've seen How to Train Your Dragon, or at least heard of the franchise, so having a 2-headed dragon it's kind of just par for the course, right? And none captures this better than the serpentine build of the hideous Zippleback. I decided for the structure here I wanted something that felt very low to the ground body-wise, but had these long and spurting necks, deciding that it was going to be a poison type, especially based on the hideous Zippleback's ability to put out this noxious gas and spark it. I know I've said it already, but I love the fact that in the How to Train Your Dragon universe, they capture the fire-breathing aspect of dragons in such distinct ways for each one. The Monstrous Nightmare does your classic fire breath, the gruesome Gronckle shoots superheated rocks, the Deadly Nadder shoots a laser beam type of fire breath, and the hideous Zippleback actually doesn't breathe fire. It instead breathes this noxious gas, which it can spark. That spark is the closest thing that it has to creating fire from its natural body, instead using science as a way of creating this flume of chaotic fire energy. So I really wanted to capture that, and I felt like it really inspires that poison typing. So for this, I did that. I also wanted to bring in a couple of these like poisonous bulbs to the back, because the hideous Zippleback already has these weird little like tentacle things that grow out of its spine, so I wanted to bring that here. I've also done a couple multi-headed dragons in videos before, and I have had it pointed out to me by the Discord that several of them look eerily similar, so I very much wanted to go away from that. If you want to be a part of those conversations, be sure to join our Discord down below. It's 100% free, and I love hanging out in there with you guys. I know, personal story, but whenever I joined different Discords for different creators that I liked, I found that the creator that I was joining for was usually not there. So I make an effort to be in the Discord, to talk with you guys, have conversation, because what you geek out about is what I geek out about. We're all there because we have similar interests. So I say it every video, but I especially mean it now. If you haven't already, hop down, join the Discord. I would love to talk to you about how similar some of my Pokemon designs are. We've been doing the channel for now over a year with about 3 to 5 videos per week. So we're gonna have some repeats. I did the math. We're at about 800 Pokemon all together within the year, so yeah, I'd love to hear about it. Who was your favorite from previous videos? What are you hoping to see in upcoming videos? And, you know, where are we gonna go from here? Our Pleb Plus program is a subscription-based platform within the Discord that allows you, as a special subscriber paying the monthly fee, to become a part of these conversations and help me design Pokemon for these videos. We've had a few of our videos feature stuff from other people in the server, and it's always so inspiring, so crazy, and so weird to do a video with ideas from someone else that weren't all me. It makes it so much more fun that way. And collaboration is a great thing to talk about with this Pokemon, because the hideous Zippleback is all about collaboration. Hideous Zippleback, the twin-headed Pokemon. Many falsely believe that this is a fire Pokemon, but its true explosive power lies in a deadly science. One head can only create a small spark, but in combination with the head that emits a noxious gas, this Pokemon can engulf a room in a toxic flame. One head, however, can become quite jealous of the other, if the other is shown more attention. So there's all of our dragons that we were going to talk about in this video. Oh, sorry, did I completely forget a character? Did I forget a dragon? Was there one who you were hoping to see in this video that we have not yet covered? Of course, I'm not going to leave you in suspense. No, I'm talking about the Night Fury. The Night Fury is such an iconic character to the franchise, coming up in the initial movie and becoming such a huge character throughout, a main character in its own right alongside Hiccup, actually modeled by the same guy who modeled Stitch. So that guy's eaten pretty good on remakes this year. It's a really cute character that brings in inspiration from animals like panthers, axolotls, house cats, dogs, all across the gambit, and really focusing in on how to apply that to this Pokemon led me to creating not one, not two, not three, but 5 interpretations of this design. I really scratched my head on how to do this. I feel like I screwed up a couple times along the way, and each time I felt like I had to start over. I was going directions that were really cool Pokemon designs, but didn't look like Toothless, or that looked a lot like Toothless, but did not feel like Pokemon. So ultimately I had to kind of reconsider all of the inspiration, have a conference with myself on how we were going to handle this design, because I mean, even the director of the live action movie has said, every time that we tried to make changes to Toothless, it didn't feel like Toothless. It felt like something different, something strange, and something foreign. So that's why in the live action, Toothless is pretty much a one-to-one from the animated movie. And I feel that exact sentiment. Every time that I tried to change something, I felt like we were moving so drastically away from what the inspiration as Toothless was. So I decided to bring in a lot of the energy from not just Toothless and How to Train Your Dragon, but Toothless and How to Train Your Dragon 2 and 3. We see throughout the series and this trilogy that Toothless gets new abilities, new powers, and new color schemes. I brought in some of that purplish bluish to the spines, the fins, and the wings in different areas of the body. Also wanted to bring in some electric type of shapes because, yeah, it's an electric type. What did you expect? So I went in with that as the main motive here, allowing me to play with color, not just that dark ash charcoal type of look that Toothless naturally has, but bring in some of the color that we see when he gets his alpha form, and bring in some of that vibrancy. So I played with that. It allowed me a couple of different opportunities throughout the design, but ultimately it's something that I'm happy with, but still something I hope that I can revisit. If you want me to revisit stuff like this, let me know. I do a free Patreon poll every week. That drops on Friday and ends on Monday, and that tells us what our Friday video is going to be for the next week. How to Train Your Dragon is actually the poll winner. So we're doing this video because it's one that you guys asked for. It's something that I love doing, and if it allows me the opportunity to revisit old videos and old designs or play into something new like Resident Evil that we did last week, I love to hear about it. Stop into the Patreon. If you don't want to become a subscriber, that's all cool. These polls are 100% free for you guys to partake in and allow you to have a little bit of a voice in the channel. Night Fury, the night sky Pokemon. Some say it is able to camouflage, while others say it merely flies amidst the night sky. Not much is truly known about this devastating Pokemon. What is known is that it is an expert flyer, relying on its many fins to glide silently through the air. If one of these fins were to get damaged, however, it would become flightless. But what are the odds of that happening? So who is your favorite, and if you only had the chance to train one of these dragon Pokemon, who would it be? Let me know down in the comments. And while you're there, consider stopping by our description where you can find the various opportunities to support the channel and this content. Some of our higher tier Patreon supporters who help make these videos possible are Corey Cooks, Topaz, Mario Pineda, Dan Hassel, Chompy Ketchan, Kobo4231, Alandriel, Sky, Yuja Sakaki, Drake Null, Jeremy Sunday, Justin Grenier, Siren Shadows, Kaylin Cat, Sticks TV, and Dan Bush. If you want to see your name on this list and get a shout out at the end of the video, all it costs is a pledge of $1, at least $1 per month through the Patreon. But if you want to get videos early as well as get your name in monthly raffles, you can become a YouTube member. That's just $3 a month, and some of our YouTube members are Shell Racer 8683. Thank you so much for becoming a YouTube member, newest guy over here. We also got Siren Shadows, Moxie, Echo Arashi, Reggie Hustle Jr., Liam Wood, RJ, Zed Ravenmore, Somni Stars, Kaylin Cat, and of course, the always wonderful Crimbo McSwizzle. Thank you guys so much for being a part of the channel, allowing this content to exist, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye!